Welcome to the Asian Supermarket. I'm your host Christina from America.
And I'm Carmen from Australia. Welcome back to a long-awaited episode 20 of Asian Supermarket. This week we have a very special guest, our friend Andy, an American Chinese tech engineer. We talk about what Christina and I have been up to during our hiatus, and also about cryptos, NFTs, and all things blockchain related.
So grab your favorite snack as we dive into the world of crypto in episode 20.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 20 of Asian Supermarket. It's been a long time. We've had a little break, but we are back now with a very special guest. This week we have Andy with us. Hi Andy.
Hi, what's
And
up?
with
What's
Christina.
up?
Yeah, Christina, why don't you introduce our very special guest this week?
Yeah, so Andy is one of my very close friends, boyfriends. We met 3 years ago. And then now we are also very good friends. So I'm glad to have him on the podcast for him to share a lot of his knowledge on crypto, on NFTs.
What's the top 3 most interesting things about you then?
Ooh, I will just lead this with an introduction.
Yes,
I'm
give us
Andy.
a background.
I've known Christina for 3 years. We got close because I'm dating her best friend. Her name is Ashley. Hopefully she'll be on a future
Not me, by the
episode.
way, not me.
Oh no, did I just reveal the curtain? Like Wizard of Oz style? I'm sorry. All the loyal listeners out there. But yes, I've been dating Ash for almost 4 years now. And then there has been another piece to the equation that I will not mention because someone asked me not to. I'll leave it at that. But a little bit more about me. I currently work at a company called Instabase. It's a tech company here in the Bay Area. We do document understanding with machine learning and artificial intelligence for big banks around the world. And we also work in the healthcare insurance space. So I am leading a technical team there. I was raised in the Bay Area, been here pretty much my whole life. Went to university here up in UC Berkeley. Wherever I go, I just love the Bay. I'm most likely, I guess, 100% Han Chinese, unless a 23andMe tells me otherwise. But I have not taken one of those yet. Both of my parents are from China. They met in college. My dad is from Beijing. My mom is from a small town by the sea called Yantai in the Shandong province. Yeah.
As you know, we're gonna ask you.
Wait, before we get into questions, I think that you two should at least update everybody on what you've been up to during your break. Right?
Oh.
Right? That seems pretty reasonable.
Yes, Christina, what have we been up to during our break?
Why don't you start?
Okay, well, I'll start because mine is less scandalous.
Ooh.
I mean, what have I been up to? I've just been I started working on a new business where I kind of just help a lot of small local businesses build websites, do a lot of tech related things, like help them manage their online presence and manage their reviews and grow things like that based on, because I found that a lot of, during the pandemic, a lot of people started small businesses and a lot of people don't really know how to do the tech side of things. So I just wanted to, help a lot of these smaller businesses get their internet presence, I guess, up to par. So that's what I've been doing. And I started hiking a lot. I met some new friends recently, and then they all like hiking. So I've been hiking a lot, doing a lot of outdoor activities, getting fit. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the Insta. The hiking places look a bomb. We gotta go, Christina, when we visit
I saw
Australia.
You were literally hanging off rocks with no rope, right? Like I was like, oh my Jesus, girl. Maybe there's no more episode 20, one big slip.
Yeah, my family and friends have been messaging me like, girl, what are you doing? Like, can you please just be safe? Like, I don't want to see all the news that people that you've like died. I'm just like, no, it's all good. Like, I go with friends who are experienced, and I have like, the main thing is like good hiking shoes. So it's really scary because sometimes when you're climbing like the mountain faces, the the grip, the ledge that you have to hold on is literally like this big, or sometimes it's just like this, and then you kind of have to trust your shoe. So like if your shoe slips, you're kind of like gone. So you gotta have like, yeah, good shoes, and kind of just don't look down and just keep going. But yeah, it's been good. I mean, if you guys are ever here, we have some like simpler mountains that we can do.
All right.
With
Dang.
good views. The views is the best part, honestly. Like I started doing it because I love the views. And yeah. What about you, Christina? Over to you. What have you been up to?
I was at competition. So finally, since things opened up, we went to nationals. So we went to Anaheim and near Disneyland and Tahoe. 30 minutes away from the big fire that happened in California. But it was a fun experience. I went on my first rope course. So basically, you know, those wooden peg things on the string, like on those courses. And now I have like this adrenaline rush where I want to keep doing these now. But yeah, I did that. Went parasailing for the first time, and then also you know, dived into crypto thanks to this person right here. So but
yeah, no, I mean that's a really good bridging though, like a really good way to bridge into it. So like Christina, since you've been looking into it, I want to hear your definition. Like please explain to the people like what is crypto, what is an NFT, just like a basic rundown for people who might not know.
Oh my gosh, I feel like
let's go. This is a good test.
Let's see, I started crypto in end of August. Right now, September. I have a month's knowledge, right? Okay, so basically, from my understanding, I could be like 100% wrong, right? So that's why we have Andy here to, you know,
fact check.
Yeah, fact check. So from my understanding, you know, like right now in America, for example, right, we have cash money, right, and decentralized banking. So the government controls everything. So with crypto, it's digital. At least I don't think there's like digital, like, you know, coins with it, right? It's digital coins and it's decentralized. So you know, no one's really controlling it per se, like government, no central control. And then there's a lot of like, is it called main coins, like Bitcoin, ETH? I have no idea what it's called, but I know there's like altcoins, which are the alternative. Yeah. So like ones I've been really keeping up with is Algo and Tezos, stuff like that. But yeah, like how about you, Carmen? I know you are also into it, but mainly Bitcoin and ETH, right?
Yeah, because I don't really, I mean, to be honest, I don't completely 100% understand the concept of cryptocurrency. Like, I watched so many YouTube videos, I read articles, and I'm like doing my best to process, like, what is blockchain? What is crypto? And then when I felt like I was kind of getting it, this whole NFT thing blew up. And now I'm like, what is an NFT? Like, well, why do people invest into this? It's just like a whole new, you know, whole new world where I'm just like, whoa, because I understand like traditional investing with like, you know, shares, companies, and then there's like ETFs and things like that. But this like crypto blockchain thing, I'm just like, whoa. Like I understand crypto, but then NFTs is where I'm like really a whole curveball.
All right. I think it's time for me to step in, I guess. Yeah, so a little bit of background about me. I started dabbling in crypto and NFTs in 2017, maybe a little bit earlier, 2016, I think. So it's been a wild ride for sure. To try to give a thesis around it is, I would say overall crypto is a bet on decentralized finance. And to unpack those buzzwords, I think what that means is people are realizing there's severe limitations with having a central financial actor within our society, right? So when you look at the mortgage crisis in 2008, when you look at the fact that the Fed controls the interest rate, our money supply, and so many different things about not just the US government, but any national government, you're ultimately putting your faith in like maybe 10, 15 individuals. And maybe, you know, you could scale that up, but truly like there is not much control that you as an individual have over this global financial atmosphere, right? And with decentralized finance and with crypto, it's taking advantage of blockchain technology to truly be able to give power back to the people. And I know a lot of what I'm saying is probably like redundant YouTube shilling nonsense. But I think at its core, the technology is really cool, and it's a bet on this idea of the truth and power being distributed amongst, every single party involved, not just a handful of people.
I think it makes a lot of sense as well, because especially, even at the start of the pandemic with the whole, like, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about like the Fed like printing money, and then, a lot of like inflation, deflation, all of these things. Definitely, like, it's no wonder that crypto became so popular, right? Because people kind of want to take control of, finances, and especially the currency that's just kind of like, people don't really understand what's happening with it because it's like so out of your control. Like, it's such a vague thing, right? That, it's just hard to understand. But yeah,
Yeah,
how did you
definitely.
get into it back then? Because back in 2017, like, it wasn't really, definitely it wasn't as known as it was now. So what was your introduction into?
So I always knew about like Bitcoin and Ethereum pretty early on. I remember back in 2014 when my friend said, "Hey, maybe you should mine some Dogecoin," and I said, "You're stupid." But in 2017, this one project got kind of popularized called CryptoKitties. But yeah, I started trading pictures of cats, and breeding pictures of cats, just for fun. Open up this world of like non-fungible tokens, right, which are NFTs. I think that, to be honest, like without the pandemic, NFTs probably wouldn't have blown up the way that they currently have. A lot of it is definitely driven by the fact that you have a bunch of people with money bored out of their minds sitting at home looking for something to do.
What about you, Christina? What NFTs? Because this is something that I have no idea about. So Christina, what NFTs have you been like, interested in? What got you into NFTs?
Same thing. He's actually the one that introduced me to it, because there's a lot of as a joke, we always joked about this one called Pokemons, because I like Pokemon. Yeah. Anyways, I looked into it. I was like, oh my god, there's so many, more cool NFTs out there. Recently, I discovered one called Koala Intelligence Agency. Yes, I think that's what it's called, KIA, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like really cute, there's like the very famous apes, all that, right? The cats, all that. But there's like a lot that's like, tens, hundreds of thousands. I just started, so I feel like for me to really invest into something that's worth a lot, I need to have a lot of knowledge, right? Yeah. I can't just do it. So he actually introduced me to a site called Hick and Nuke, right?
Close enough.
Yeah, and then basically you use Tezos, and then you can buy very high quality art, and then for like a lower price, I would say. So I felt like as a beginner, it was a really good stepping stone for me. So I was able to research some of the like nice pieces, range from like 5 to 20 Tezos, and then you can always sell it. You can kind of see analysis of your collection value, all that. So I don't stick with a specific artist. I kind of just see what I personally like, supporting the artist. And then also there's a couple pieces where I feel like, oh, there's potential, right? I feel like there's no loss for me. I'm not really doing it to like just sell, resell. It's kind of just holding. Maybe in the long run it blows up, or the artist. If it does, great. If not, like at least, I'm holding an art piece I really like. Some people are like, oh yeah, you don't have art pieces to hang up, just print like high quality art of it, right? So that's kind of like my NFT in a nutshell story.
I mean, the main, like, I've seen a lot of people like selling NFTs for crazy amounts of money, and people say like, oh, NFTs are really good for, like, I've seen musicians sell NFTs. I've seen NFTs as part of like sports. Like, how does that work, Andy? Do you know about that part of NFTs? Because I know you guys have been discussing about like the artworks part of it, but how does it work in terms of like music, like sports?
Yeah, so to really like take a step back here, you have to look at blockchain technology, and really what this tech is you can think about it almost as like a distributed computer, right, across the entire world, right? So if I tap into the blockchain, I can help run some type of compute that allows someone to run a program or algorithm on top of it. And so specifically with the Ethereum blockchain, it introduced this concept of smart contracts, which are a way you can write code that would run on the blockchain itself. And so with smart contracts came this concept of non-fungible tokens, right? So the non-fungible aspect means that every single token is unique. So it's very different than, say, like a US dollar or Ethereum, where technically one Ethereum coin or one Bitcoin, it looks the exact same as another one, right? But with a non-fungible token, every single one will look and appear different. And so what first popularized NFTs during the pandemic were a lot of what people call one-of-ones. So these are just singular tokens that are extremely unique. A lot of them represented pieces of art that would sell for, millions of equivalent US dollars. But what people later came on to realize was that non-fungible tokens were a great way to sort of raise funding for a project or an idea or something like that. And I think the coolest way to see it is in this concept called DAOs. So a DAO stands for a decentralized autonomous organization. So it's a way for you to create a single entity that is controlled by many different people. So a good example of a DAO is if I have 10,000 NFTs that represent a single vote within this DAO, I can start selling them for a small amount of money. And then based off of how many of those you own, you get a vote into that DAO. And then that DAO can do whatever it wants. It can invest in other pieces of crypto or NFTs together so you can all make money together, say as like a friend group or an organization, or it can even control some sort of real physical concept. One cool thing that someone's trying to do in New York is start a restaurant where you can buy NFTs that are shares of that restaurant, right? So what does that mean? That means that if you go and eat at that restaurant, you show that you own an NFT of that restaurant and you might be able to eat for free or an extreme discount. It also means that if the restaurant blows up, you would start earning a little bit of money based off of owning that NFT alone, right? So if the restaurant makes a lot of money, you as an investor of that restaurant would actually make a little bit of money with that. And obviously it sounds like you're trusting people to pay you out in this case, but the whole concept of a smart contract means that it's coded into the blockchain. So you don't have to trust people, you just have to trust what's written in the blockchain. And so that becomes really, really cool because you see a lot of these projects don't have a sole owner or one or a team owning them. They're actually owned by a community. And so that means that you as a community, you as an owner of a specific NFT as part of a collection can control where it goes, can control like what's next for it, what's on its roadmap and stuff like that.
Can you talk a little bit about minting? Because we are talking about buying, right? NFTs, and then I always ask, I was like, oh my God, why don't I just mint some NFTs, right? Then we can
you mean like create your own NFT and sell it? Is that what you?
Yeah, so the term minting stands for the process of creating an NFT. It's essentially just deploying a smart contract onto the blockchain that allows you to create actual non-fungible tokens off of it. So every single smart contract will mint in different ways. There's a couple of popularized ones where you'll create 10,000 limited editions of a single collection that are randomly generated so that they all appear as one-of-ones. But yeah, I definitely research into every single project that you'd want to approach. But the whole aspect of NFTs is cool because anybody can really mint them. There's no like significant barrier to entry to create one. So what you'll end up seeing is a lot of influencers and artists who are monetizing their own fan base through NFTs. I think Carmen, you mentioned a good example, which is a lot of musical artists will actually start selling their own NFTs. But obviously the way that you get any project, give it any momentum in this space is through A, branding, and then B, utility, right? So utility is this broad term for just what do I get as an owner of that NFT? So for a music artist, a good example is there's this famous music artist, Blau, who's an EDM artist. He's releasing an NFT that gives fans royalties from his own music. So based off of how much money he's making, he will take a percentage of that and split it amongst the fans who own his NFT. So that's a utility aspect of it. And so you'll see more and more influencers who are trying to, engage with their fans in this sort of financial way that you didn't really see before.
I've seen a lot of arguments on the internet about NFTs, and I feel like the main one is people are saying like, okay, NFTs, like let's say you buy this artwork you can literally like Control C, Control V, paste, and then you'll have like the
right
exact
click
same
paste squad, yeah.
artwork, right? So it's like, why
Yeah.
are people? And then I understand the argument. People say like, oh, you own the rights to it, but at the same time, like you say that it's different. But how is it different? Like you say, it's one of one. But if
Yeah.
it's a digital asset, like how is it different? I don't
Yeah.
understand that
Let
part of
me
it.
let me throw out some of the common examples that people have used
Yeah.
to try to explain this. So when we talk about one of one art, people like to equate it to like the Mona Lisa, right? Which is, if I Google image the Mona Lisa, I can get the Mona Lisa, right? If
Yeah.
that's all I care about, which is the art itself. But the way to guarantee that a non-fungible token is yours is through the blockchain, right? So
Yeah.
the blockchain represents like a singular database for everybody to verify who owns what, who has what, who can transfer what, right? And so with the Mona Lisa, or any other piece of like physical art, there's still technically usually only one owner, like either an art group or a single person. When you think about NFTs, a lot of the time it's not actually representing the ownership. I mean, it's not representing like just having that image, because anybody could download that image, that video, or whatever. It's more of a ownership fingerprint of that image itself, right? So when anybody looks at the blockchain and treats it as the source of truth, they know that you're the one who owns that piece of art. So that's sort of the aspect there, in terms of, you want to think of NFTs almost as like the equivalent of an ownership certificate for a piece of art, rather than the art itself.
And then another question that I have that comes with that is, are NFTs, like the rights to this whatever, art or music or whatever creative work, is that separate from like the what's it called, like the creative rights of it, like you know what I mean, like what's the word for it?
Yeah, sort of like the licensing rights, right? Like
like the distribution, licensing, and like the actual creative rights associated with that work. Is that separate from the actual NFT, or is that together?
It'll depend on the collection. So it'll depend on whoever created the project itself. There are some projects where the creator will take a step back and let the community own it, and obviously, like by then, everybody can do whatever they want with the stuff that they own. Others will choose to hold their own licensing rights. A good example of this is CryptoPunks, which you may have seen before. They're 8-bit images of like human beings with different traits. They're the original like big NFT collection. They started in 2017. But the one thing that they did was they chose to hold the licensing rights to every single CryptoPunk. So just because you owned it doesn't mean that you could, say, film a movie with your CryptoPunk in it and release that movie. And so the big news recently was, I believe about a month ago, they actually partnered with a big, I think, studio in Hollywood to start creating a CryptoPunk movie. But you'll start seeing a bunch of other collections where they give rights to the individual owner themselves. So you'll see a lot of derivative art, derivative collections from people who own the rights to their own NFT, if you want to say. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I was seeing that like Twitter was gonna start having like a verification thing, so people who actually owns the NFT for their profile picture or something. And it's just so interesting, because the concept is that anyone can download the picture and set it as a profile picture. But then because of, the blockchain and how it's actually like people do actually have the rights behind these pictures, they have to come out with a whole new system where it's like, oh, show that people are actually verified, like you do own this NFT and you have the rights to use it as your picture. And it's so interesting.
I do believe that Twitter is such a core piece to the NFT community.
Yeah.
Twitter themselves even released an NFT collection a while ago, where they only minted 140 NFTs, handed them out almost randomly to people within the NFT community. And I think they're each worth about hundreds of thousands of dollars right now. But when you do look at this whole space of who owns what, it sort of stems back to this delineation in the overall internet space of what people call Web 2 versus Web 3. So currently we're in Web 2, which is a bunch of private sites with their own databases that track your data, right? Like Reddit will track your data and New York Times tracks your data. The concept of Web 3 is driven by this whole blockchain movement of in Web3, you use the blockchain as the source of truth, right? And so this whole concept of verifying who owns what through the blockchain, through something like Twitter, falls into Web3. And it's this concept of going back to what the internet started off as, which is giving power to the community, decentralizing everything with respect to a global network on the World Wide Web, right?
How do you kind of convince people? I mean, not convince, but how do you explain to people, like the people who have this kind of mentality where it's like, where they're like, no, like it's gonna go to zero, like it's not, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like saying anything that is a sweeping statement that could potentially be false. I still tell people invest what you're willing to lose, because I still think there's a lot more risk in this space compared to traditional finance. But you should be building your confidence in your own research by understanding the space more. I think that the overall thesis of, do you want to hedge your investments on something that is sort of would move orthogonally to the government? Look at crypto, right? And I think a lot of people do this now, where I see more and more people just holding a small amount of Bitcoin or a small amount of Ethereum, just because it's a natural hedge against traditional finance. I think today, actually, Morgan Stanley just doubled their stake within Bitcoin, because they believe that, if there's higher risk of government failures or the government just having a bad year or two, then people will naturally turn to this like decentralized finance.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's also an argument against it where people say, oh, like one of the biggest threats to decentralized finance is like government regulation, right? Like the government, like I think recently, a few days ago, China just like completely banned cryptocurrency or something.
For the second time.
Yeah, for the second time. And apparently they're like one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin or something. So I was like, what?
Yeah. I think for Bitcoin specifically, because Bitcoin is a proof of work cryptocurrency, which means that it requires people to be running really powerful computers to solve a cryptographic problem in order to move the chain forwards. China has, they have energy, people, just supplies for days, right? So they're pretty crucial to holding Bitcoin up. But yeah, it is the second time that they banned it. It was a much bigger drop the first time they did. I think in terms of regulations is probably the biggest concern that people have right now. I personally believe there's more than enough momentum behind this space where regulations would delay things more than they would actually hinder them, if that makes sense.
I saw like El Salvador, right? A lot of places are starting to adopt it. And then even on Venmo, like I'm getting notifications on like, oh, using cryptocurrency, or, you get how much this, how much that. So I feel like that was one of the reasons why because I was hesitant on it too, right? A lot of my friends say it's kind of like magical coins, invisible coins, right? Because it's like they like, physical things, right? But then I'm like, yeah, technology is booming right now. We're only going to get more advanced, right? So why not invest into, the digital world right now? So that kind of like pushed me into it. Yeah.
I guess it's like the really, really early stages now. It's like when we were growing up and then the internet first started getting popular, and people were like, no, like the internet is like so big, like, don't go on there too much, But now it's like, look at how far the internet has come. It's the same thing. Like everything has like a curve of adaptation. Once we get through it, hopefully it'll grow into a more commonplace,
Yeah, just look at the past year's trends, right? Like right now, Bitcoin's at like 44K, right? I think 44, right? Yeah.
She knows it off the top of her head.
Wow. Someone's been checking the charts daily.
Yeah, ETH is like 3,000 something.
Is a full-on degenerate.
Yeah, right. It's only been like not that many years. It's grown so much. So I was looking at stuff where they're like, think about in 2050 how much. But yet again, no promises, right? Who knows what the future is.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to always get wary whenever people start giving you guarantees. Like if you're talking about price, back in 2017 was the first initial pop when ETH hit about 1600 and it came down to 90 within a year. So, there's naturally going to be volatility. There's naturally going to be skeptics and everything that you would expect out of any type of trend. Yeah. Can I ask one more question before we go?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you guys are almost 20 episodes, or I guess 20 episodes
20.
in when this comes out. What do you think is the biggest learning that you've had about yourself from doing this whole thing? And how much do you think this whole journey has changed since the start too?
For me, I feel like the biggest learning has been like how many Asian people live abroad, but how similar we all are in the end. Like the topics of conversations that I've had with other people, it's like growing up, like I said, growing up with very little exposure to Asian culture, I didn't realize that a lot of my actions and a lot of my thoughts are like quite Asian. But then after speaking to so many people, I'm just like, whoa, actually, like even though we're all from different cultures, different backgrounds, it's like we are all quite similar, I guess, in some respect. And that's been really cool for me to just like meet a lot of different friends from around the world, mostly Christina's friends, but it's been good.
Yeah, for me, it's basically just learning about everyone's different cultures. Like, for one, like the Persian culture episode, right? It was so cool learning about it because I don't think I would ever personally ask people like, oh, tell me about your mannerisms, right? It's kind of weird asking people, but just learning about that, learning about like different occupations people had. Like that one episode we had with Emily from Japan, the mixed girl. Yeah, she's talking to us about the hotel management aspect, all that. So it's just great. I feel like getting everyone to share their different insights, their lives, just a great platform for us to all become friends, right? A big goal of mine is I want to hit 50, I want to hit 100 where we can all come together on Zoom, right? Just have a discussion. Who knows? Maybe we can make some, NFT plans. I don't know, but like that's like a really big
live minting of NFTs.
Yeah. Yeah. So having a space where we get to share and also create.
Yeah. I think that it's just been it's been a fun journey, getting to meet people from all different kinds of cultures, and even like people who have grown up in Asia, and just getting to know like how they grew up and how different it has been for them versus like us who've grown up in Western countries. I think that that's been a real interesting point for me. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's to 20 more. I still remember listening to the first episode in a drive-through with Ash. I had a great time. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I can become like a guest correspondent in the future if you need further hosts. No, I'm kidding.
We would love it. No.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support. Really, like we really appreciate it. Criticisms, feedback, always welcome.
Put up the Patreon, start the DAO. I'm ready.
Heck yeah, let's do it. NFTs, let's go.
I love it.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in this week, and we hope you found this episode interesting. Join us again next week for a brand new episode with our special guest Angel, where we discuss Asians in the healthcare field as well as interracial dating. See you next week.